Welcome to the gilded cage, when the office becomes an amusement park. Close your eyes and imagine the office. If you're of a certain vintage, you see a sea of beige. You see gray cubicle walls, flickering fluorescent lights, and the distinct scent of stale coffee and desperation. It was a place designed for one thing: output. You were a cog in a machine, and the machine didn't care about your inner child or your need for a midday sound bath. But fast forward to the modern tech campus, and the office has transformed into something unrecognizable. It's no longer a place of work. It's an all-inclusive adult playground or an amusement park. We have nap pods that look like Apollo 11, gourmet sushi bars, climbing walls, and kombucha on tap. But today, we need to ask a very uncomfortable question. When did we decide that a $200,000 salary wasn't enough, and that we also needed our employer to act as our parent, our chef, and our cruise director? And more importantly, what happens to a workforce when you treat them like children in a nursery instead of professionals in a high-stakes economy? We went from the boring years to the amusement park era. But why did we make this change? To be fair, this started with good intentions. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the knowledge economy took over. Companies realized that they weren't selling widgets anymore. They were selling ideas. In the war for talent, perks were the primary weapon. If you wanted the world's best engineers, you couldn't just give them a cubicle. You had to remove every single friction point in their lives. The logic was simple. If I feed you, wash your clothes, and give you a place to nap, you have no reason to leave. You will stay here, in this beautiful bubble, and give me your best ideas. This was a strategy of friction removal. And for a while it worked. It fueled the rise of the iPhone, the search engine, and the social media revolution. But then, something shifted. The amusement park stopped being a tool for productivity and became a lifestyle expectation. This brings us to the great paradox of modern tech. To get into these companies, you have to be elite. You spend months, sometimes years, grinding LeetCode, mastering multi-threaded concurrency, and solving math problems that would make a NASA scientist blink. The gate is incredibly narrow, but the moment these geniuses pass through that gate, the intensity evaporates. Go to YouTube right now and search for A Day in the Life at Meta or Google. You'll see aesthetic vlogging. You'll see the matcha latte art. You'll see the collaboration lounge. You'll see the free vending machines filled with noise-canceling headphones. But you will almost never see anyone actually writing code. We have created a culture where the goal isn't to do the work. The goal is to arrive at the place where the work is supposedly done. We are hiring the brightest minds of a generation and turning them into highly paid, gourmet-fed clerks who consider a 3-hour meeting about team synergy to be an exhausting day. Let's speak plainly for a moment, shall we? Because there is a particular brand of modern vacuity that can only be cultivated in a nap pod. There is a segment of this workforce, not all, but a loud and growing few, who have mistaken a corporate benefit for a divine right. You are remarkably cosseted, yet perpetually aggrieved. You sit within a gilded cage of your own making, complaining that the artisanal free lunch lacks variety, or that being asked to actually occupy your desk for 40 hours a week is an act of corporate violence. It is, frankly, embarrassing. While you play at being a visionary while sitting on a beanbag, you have become a victim of your own comfort. You have traded your professional dignity for a collection of company-branded hoodies and a wellness budget. You are being paid a king's ransom to contribute to the most powerful engines of wealth in human history. Yet you treat your assignments like a tiresome interruption to your social calendar. You aren't quiet quitting. You are simply admitting that you lack the stamina for the very excellence you claim to possess during your interview. It is not burnout to be asked to do the job you are paid for. It is called a career. And if you cannot tell the difference between a high-performance workspace and a daycare center, perhaps you should step aside for someone who still remembers how to work without a safety net of free avocados. And here is the real tragedy. While these lifestyle employees are busy complaining about office supply restrictions, there is a literal army of talent standing outside the gates. There are developers in small towns, in developing nations, and in local startups who would give their right arm for 1% of the opportunity these big tech employees have. They would work 16 hours a day, they would build the future with a smile on their face, and they wouldn't care if the coffee was free or if there was a slide in the lobby. They have the hunger, they have the drive, but they are locked out, while the people inside have become so bloated on perks that they've forgotten how to hunt. We are rewarding non-seriousness while the truly dedicated are left knocking on the door. It is a massive misallocation of human potential. But the easy money era is over. The era of 0% interest rates allowed companies to, quote, bench thousands of employees just to keep them away from the competition. But now, the bill has come due. The year of efficiency wasn't just corporate greed. It was a long overdue reality check. Companies realized that their amusement parks were filled with people who weren't producing a return on investment. In 2024, Meta fired 24 people for using their meal credits to buy laundry detergent and wine glasses. It was the ultimate mask-off moment for the entitled workforce. Now let's come to Twitter takeover. Regardless of what you think of the owner of X, the shift from nap-pod culture to hardcore work proved that the company could actually run with 80% fewer people. It exposed the fake work for exactly what it was. These companies are finally realizing that if they want to survive the AI revolution, they need soldiers, not tourists. I am not against a beautiful office. I am not against treating employees well, but I am against the erosion of the professional soul. A workplace is a place where you exchange your talent for capital. It is a contract. When you stop appreciating the opportunity and start treating it like an entitlement, you lose the very thing that made you elite in the first place. The amusement park is closing its gates. The slides are being dismantled, and the free sushi is being replaced by a simple question: what did you actually build today? If that question scares you, you're in the wrong building. But if that question excites you, then maybe, just maybe, we can get back to building a future that actually matters. What's your take? Is the tech industry finally growing up, or is this just the end of the good times? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.